Welcome to 615 Unplugged, where we explore the people, businesses, and stories that make Middle Tennessee what it is today and what it will be tomorrow. Today, we meet Aaron Sanders, founder of 1819 Coffee, whose innovative vision is turning underutilized church properties into thriving centers of connection and purpose. If you're curious to find out how a simple coffee shop can change lives, I'd encourage you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation with Aaron Sanders. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's awesome. Great to be here.
Honestly, it is my pleasure. I've gotten to learn a little bit about what you've done and what you're doing through the church that we both attend, Hope You See, and heard your bits and pieces of your story here and there. And so I'm really thrilled to have you and for the listeners to also kind of hear a little bit about your story and what you're going through. Before we get started, take a second, introduce yourself for the listeners, anybody who doesn't know who you are and what you're involved in.
Yeah, my name's obviously Aaron Sanders, and what I'm involved in, goodness, that's a broad range. So we'll just kind of narrow it down to what takes the most of my time truly, and it is my heartbeat. It is the underutilized commercial property that is in the Christian culture. Sometimes they have some of the most useful real estate that sits empty and unoccupied 90% of the week. So my passion is helping them to utilize it to its highest and best use from a business standpoint. But I also believe that is also an opportunity for those of faith, that they can grow their congregations, they can grow their footprint and their impact by leveraging their most valuable asset. So I have a coffee shop that we operate. We do an event business. We do some Airbnb. All of that, though, is to utilize commercial spaces of people, of groups of faith, to its highest and best yield.
And obviously one of the main ones is 1819 Coffee.
Right.
That is obviously a local favorite here. And it's funny, yesterday I was there for a while and I was taking a look around and I just saw like people from all walks of life. Like I saw a mom with a newborn baby, and then I saw some teenagers, and some people were like studying, some people were working, some people were just chatting it up. And one thing that kind of struck me is I don't know if they realize the level of intention or vision that it kind of took to craft what they're enjoying. And I was wondering, when you kind of set foot in nowadays in 1819, and you see that, when you see the space being used in the way that it is, when you see those conversations happening, those relationships kind of developing, what's going through your mind? What tell me a little bit about what goes through your mind when you see that stuff.
Well, it's a fulfilled dream, right? So this property was unoccupied in October of 2020. It had been purchased by a nonprofit in September. The Hope Unlimited Church Nashville actually owns the property and facilitates church on it. But I was sitting in what is now, if you're familiar with the space, the library room on the first floor of the manor house. It's a beautiful room. And I was sitting in there, but it was empty. It was painted yellow and purple. And I was sitting in one of the high back leather couches that was basically the only thing in that room. And it was cold. And I was thinking, what is needed in the year 2020? If you remember flashback, we were all in the middle of COVID and everybody was scared to talk to everybody, and there was masks, and there was shaming for wearing masks and shaming for not wearing masks, and everybody was
Yep.
a little bit mad. And so I was saying, what is needed in the middle of all of this to make the highest and best yield? And that's where the concept of the mission statement for the coffee shop is, that we will accomplish double-digit decrease in depression, anxiety, and suicide by intentionally creating a space for people to do life together, because everybody deserves a community to do life with. That was the idea. So then when you ask the question, what goes through my head when I walk through it now, I just feel like the power of a dream, an idea executed, is beautiful. because you're right. Most people don't know that there's a whole process for seating in the coffee shop called intentionally awkward seating. And that's not something that we broadcast or advertise, but every employee knows it because they can't shift chairs around. That avoids we could jam more bodies in, but that's not the goal. The goal is to sit down and one person could lock up a room. And so that it makes it awkward when you come in and you're like, hey, is it okay if I sit here and kind of I'm just going to work, and is it okay? My goal in that is hopefully 2-3 times later, you're now saying, hey, Mike, do you mind if I sit down here today? How's Susie? You've started this dialogue, right? So the intentionally awkward seating is not about selling more coffee. It's about that mission statement of connecting. So when you come on property and you see all of the people that are connecting, about 3,000 people per week, that's an
Wow,
amazing feeling.
3,000 per week.
Yeah, last year we
That's
put about
incredible.
200,000 bodies, besides what the church meets, about 200,000 bodies through the property of a church.
Wow,
So that's why I say
that's
it's
incredible.
it's this is one of those, this is a passion piece for me. There's 380,000 Christian churches in the United States, averaging 15,000 square foot per church, and those are underutilized to the tune of about 90%. If I apply a commercial rent rate to that, even a low end commercial rent rate, that's about $1.2 trillion a year that we're lighting on fire and nothing's happening. Not to mention the body costs, like the people that are coming
Yeah.
there to connect with each other. The revenue is icing on the cake. The real mission for me is people.
So, okay, so now let me kind of backtrack a little bit because you mentioned two things that kind of stood out to me. Obviously, one is the this commercial value thing that is kind of like screaming at you, and like I'm seeing like your analytical mind is going like, "Whoa, what is happening here?" Right? But then there's this other side of the vision and the goal that at least with 1819 was about reducing suicide and loneliness and all of these things. And tell me a little bit about how you came to that conclusion of like, okay, this is going to be, is there a particularly close thing to you that led you to that route of caring about those things, the loneliness and suicide or anything? Or was it just something that got put in your heart as just talk to me?
So I, I'm very sensitive to the impact that was happening during COVID. My daughter was the only one left in high school. She had a whole group of friends in high school that would actually schedule on a calendar. I mean, they would pull it out and schedule their mental breakdown so that the other person could be there to support them. So there wasn't like, could a mental breakdown happen? No, it's accepted that a mental breakdown is going to happen. And if we all schedule our mental breakdowns so that we can support one another in them, now I've started seeing a whole culture forming around depression and frustration and anxiety, and
Wow.
then suicide rates were going up because of the separation that was happening with this. People were no longer at work, and I started hearing stories of, hey, I'm not used to hanging out with my wife. I'm usually at work, and our life works really well when we're not together all the time. And so I started seeing a theme that we have as a culture lost the connection and support for positive things. So that's really what fueled that. In addition, there was a white paper done on a Zimbabwe had an issue with depression and suicide, and they tried to solve it by bringing in psychologists to train enough of them to go village to village and counsel people. The problem is it was impractical. They ran out of money. There's not enough psychologists willing to travel in Zimbabwe's village to village or city to city to try to solve this. So one psychologist said, I'm going to take a year and I'm just going to travel around the country, and I'm going to meet with the elders and teach them how to listen to people, not solve problems, not counsel, just listen to people. And then when I leave that city or leave that village, I'm going to put a friendship bench in the middle of the village, and the elders are going to take turns sitting on it to just listen to people's problems. In a year's time, they had double-digit decreases in depression and suicide rates in the nation of Zimbabwe from one person making that type of a choice. So, and you can Google this. It's called the Zimbabwe Friendship Bench Project, and it's expanded into food service and those type of things now. But at a heart, that's what I was seeing in my community. That's what I knew internationally could happen. And so why not wrap a for-profit business around it?
That's incredible. That's incredible. And so, as you are looking at all of these things, you kind of mentioned, event spaces, all of these other things. How do those tie in to everything that you're doing?
So obviously, from an event standpoint, from an event facility place, a church, a gathering of religious context needs space to get together, but they underutilize it. So what would we do? Well, let's say, well, that big open space, and for the community that we're involved in here, everybody after church service on Sunday, it's not just, hey, is your seat uh, comfortable or not? You're going to pick your seat up and you're going to carry it out at the end, because we're as a church, we have made a commitment that what happens on Monday is just as important as it happens on Sunday. So the event business facilitates another outlet for connection and for people to enter, if you will, a funnel, right? The funnel of community and connection. Our church talks about we're a family of families. Well, you really can't be a family of families if everybody is just hanging out with each other. The whole point of a family, I'm excited. I've got two grandchildren and another one on the way. Well, that happened because my son didn't just hang out with us. He went and found somebody else and
Right.
brought them into the family. And so,
Yeah.
look, what we're trying to do through these businesses and outlets is to add more people to our family. And and if I can move the needle from an anxious, depressed cultural society to a group of people who are not only surviving but thriving with each other, then I'll run multiple businesses to do that.
Yeah, and I find it really inspiring that, as I was kind of mentioning earlier, there's this like analytical side of things of the underutilized commercial space, but then there's this other side, which at times it can be seen as like something that you can't tackle both at the same time, right? It's either one or the other. Which ones are you going to focus on? But it sounds like what you're doing is you're doing both, and that balance between those is what's really genius, I think, because it's no secret that also one of the biggest issues that churches, experience is sometimes funding or all of that stuff. And this kind of fits right in because they already have the asset. Now they're just utilizing it to alleviate some of the financial hardships or constraints that they might have if they don't have that additional outlet, right?
Right. Yeah, and I look at it from a couple of standpoints. One, you said that we're doing both, and I would say that it's 100% we are doing both, because the reality is I am an operations person. It looks like I'm in a dungeon right now, and actually I refer to this affectionately as the dungeon. It is a 200-year-old cellar hole in the ground that's been remodeled into an office space on the property. What we're talking about, 1819 Coffee. My personality would be to run and mastermind something from a dungeon. I'm not the people person.
Right.
It's just I'm an ops guy. I like the operations piece. But what I can do is put operations in place that facilitate more ministry minded people that would overwhelmed with the operations side. I'm on the operations side, but I'm going to tee it up so that you have the opportunity to just sit on a friendship bench. That's all you need to do is meet people and love on them and interact with them. That's the beauty of a team doing this, not just an operations guy.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in the past. You basically have non-operations people, like these dreamer extrovert people, and they're ready to go and they're going to blow and go and change the world, but they have no ops behind them, so they flame out after a year. And then I've also seen the other side, my personality. They never flame out, but they also don't really move the needle that much. So it takes a
Yeah.
community to come together, and then you hit the icing on the cake is the financial benefit from it. Look, I think for this done right, it could create a revenue neutral experience for a ministry, for a church to operate on a property instead of bleeding to air condition a space that's not used 90% of the time, or heat a space. Then why don't you just pay for what you're going to use, and then the business actually operates the other part of it? So it's a
Yeah, I
beautiful
agree.
connection.
So maybe share a little bit about how you got into this, how you came to do what you're doing nowadays. Like what give us a little bit of a trajectory of your path.
Okay. Yeah. So my background is corporate retirement investing. I was with Securing Retirement as a DBA of Minnesota Life Insurance. My office was in St. Paul, Minnesota. I lived in Hudson, Wisconsin, across the border. And it sounds like you live in one state and work in another. It's a 30-minute drive to my office. And I had a great job, so I didn't have to take um, finances from my church, but I had a third generation pastoral, right? My family leans that direction in Christian pastoral
Okay.
ministry. And so I had an itch to scratch from that standpoint. And we were actually post-marital counseling with a couple who had started with punching a hole in the wall. My wife took the kids away, and I counseled with the guy overnight. And then 6 months later, we've been counseling, and she tried to give a compliment to us by saying that it's like we go through a dark forest all week, and then we meet with you and your wife, and it's like a bright light. But we go back into the dark forest on Monday again, and but they were trying to compliment us. I left there and I looked at my wife as we sat in the car, and I said, we have to be honest with ourselves. I understand group psychotherapy, and group psychotherapy works as long as you keep going to the group psychotherapy, but it doesn't ever propel you to change. And if we say we're introducing people to Jesus as a minister, then they should be having some bright light on Monday, Tuesday, because he's with them. And we weren't doing that. That
Right.
caused us to start asking some serious questions around what's the point of this? Why is there more than just group psychotherapy? And I read through the Bible and I see uh, blind eyes opened, and I see all kinds of other miracle things happening, but my life doesn't parallel that. That led us down a path of asking a lot of questions and telling God we would pursue you regardless. What does it look like to have more than our Christian experience? And that led us to a revelation that Tennessee was where we were supposed to be. And so our family moved here. Now in 2013, when we moved here, it's very common now. If you go into downtown Franklin, it's a suburb of Nashville, just south of Nashville. If you go into Franklin, it's the 615 area code that you're highlighting here. Um, you walk in a room and you're going to find somebody that says, "Hey, God told me to move here." And a lot of people are saying that. In 2013, nobody was saying that. We were saying that, and people looked at us like we might have had a third eye in the middle of our head. Like, what's the real reason you're moving here? Type thing. Um, and at the time, I didn't know that I would be doing what I'm doing today, but I just knew there had to be more. And it led me to ask some questions. I had helped facilitate remodels of churches and development of churches. And I remember one time standing in front of it, a finished church building, and I was like, "Are you happy with this, God?" And I didn't feel like there I was settled that he was happy with it, but I didn't know why. And now I have language to I started asking him and praying about why would you not be happy about it? And this underutilization concept came up. And then it wasn't until I was over the church gathering piece, not because I didn't believe in God, but I had seen it in every reiteration, and I was like, I understand it.
Mm.
I can free up my Wednesdays and Sundays and still do some great God things without that trappings of the mess. And Dustin Smith said, "Hey, I feel like I'm going to start a church." And I was like, we've had conversations that we're not doing that anymore, right? And so I told him, I'm out. Have fun doing that thing. And he started looking at purchasing the property where 1819 is. And I was like, it doesn't fit church, but it does fit a model that I could be a part of. And so that's kind of the
Right.
trajectory that got me there.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what's going through your mind when going back to what you said, right now it's very common to hear somebody say that, God told me to move here. Um, But in 2013, it wasn't that common.
Right.
What's going through your mind when you're having those conversations, when you're finally your feet are here and you don't know what is it that you're supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
So part of our story, and it's longer than we can get into on this podcast, but I'll just tease it out with you. It When we moved here, events happened, and we ended up as a family of six living in our van for 662 days. And we're like, God, you told us that we're supposed to be here, and this doesn't feel like anything cool or anything good. And if you call people out to do this type of stuff, I really am not on board. I don't really like you. Western Christianity had
So it doesn't sound like you were doing the proverbial like van life Instagram, like we're
oh no
living in a van. It
no
wasn't by choice.
no. It was like I said, it's a longer story, but we clearly knew that our next step was that's what we're going to do. And out of
Okay.
that season, I would say probably 70% of the relationships that helped me build this today came from that opportunity that I wouldn't have had I not said yes to it. It's one of the reasons I'm really passionate about saying yes to what God asks you to do. And I always talk to people and say, thank you for your yes, because it costs you something. I'm not saying everybody should go live in a van. And also, so your listeners know, I'm not bohemian. My kids are 2 years apart because I like spreadsheets and operations and procedures. Um, eh, I'm not the guy that's just going to go live in his van. It's not my
Got
personality.
it. Got it. So that's over 10 years now. Looking back, what is a piece of advice that Aaron today, if you went back to 2013, what's a piece of advice that you think you needed to hear then that you would give yourself knowing what you know today?
So I've thought a lot about that, and it's very simple for me. Two things I would say: listen and obey. That solves it all. If I can, I'm a believer, so I truly believe God exists. So if I believe God exists, then I should be listening to Him and then trust and obey. The problem I see is that He asks you to do crazy things. I've also read the Bible as a logistics minded, operation minded person, and I see that He continually, His MO is, hey, do this crazy thing. Build this boat because it's going to rain. Well, you're like, what's rain? It's never rained
What is
before.
rain?
Like, we don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
But why would we build a boat? Because of rain that we don't even know what it is. And there's example after example after example. So, example of Joseph, he's like, I've got this great vision, family. You're going to bow down to me, and everything's going to be amazing. And before long, he's in a pit, and then he's in prison, and then he's forgotten in prison and left there. Like, that's the MO. And somehow, my 2013 Christian brain only expected great things. Like flower petals were going to happen
Hmm.
in front of me everywhere I went, and it was just going to be a fantastic. It was going to be uh, a a cruise ship experience with stops on an island, and it turned out to be more of a Swiss Family Robinson shipwreck and building some amazing things. So I guess if I were to look back, I would say simply trust and obey, no matter what it looks like. Trust and obey.
Okay. Flip side of that. Imagine Aaron from 10 years from now. It's coming back to today and it's giving you a piece of advice. What's something that you think right now you need to hear?
This ties to something I'm wrestling with right now. I think the my prayer is that the 10 years from now me would encourage me to lay down. It's not all on my shoulders. I'm an ops guy. I am a procedures guy. I like to do the due diligence and the numbers and make sure that it works. And the thing that I'm growing right now, the scale that's happening, this whole model of avodah, as we call it, is a Hebrew word. It means work, worship, and service. So the model of a for-profit entity operating on an underutilized commercial real estate owned by a nonprofit is popping off right now. I've got people constantly wanting to meet with me to talk about what does this look like to structure our facility to do what you guys are doing. So I feel that my shoulders are getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And what I'm wrestling with is his burden is easy and it's light. According to the scriptures,
Hmm.
that's what my experience should be, but it's not feeling that way. So my hope is that the 10 years from now, Aaron would look back at me and say, I told you, just let it go. It's not your responsibility to hold all of it on your shoulders. But the current me is wrestling with, but if I don't do it, who's going to? That whole wrestle. So yeah, if I could hear the 10-year me, he's probably saying, "Oh, it's so much better once you let it go."
It's almost as a repeat of what you said, right? Like that your advice back then would be to listen and just do, right? But now it sounds like you're hearing it, but there's the rub, right? It's like you're feeling that you need to do something, but then there's this thing in the middle that doesn't allow you to follow it.
Right.
So why do you think that happens? What at least personally in your case right now, knowing that Aaron 10 years from now would tell you, "Hey, let it go."
Yeah.
Why do you think we sometimes struggle with those things that we deep down we know this is what we have to do? Is it you don't feel like there's the people around? Is it kind of like a training thing? Is it like what do you
For
think?
me, I think it's self-reliance is so it was one thing for me. I'm talking about in 2014 when we were in the van life. So we lived by we had to pray for God to give us provision for the day. What does that look like? So, and a good example of this, just in context, 662 days of this, I'm just going to give you one example. We dropped our kids off at school, and I'm sitting in our van with my wife, and we're praying, saying, "Okay, God, what do you want to do next? We're trying to do the thing here and obey." And she says, "Okay, I heard from God. I feel like we're supposed to itemize our list of bills, and let's start doing that." And I said, "Absolutely not. That would be so depressing to itemize the bills. I know I don't have any money." And so she is such a good listener and obeyer that she went ahead and itemized them off to the side without me knowing. And probably 4 hours later, somebody reached out. I still have not met this person to this day. My wife knew her when she was a little girl and went to school with her, and she was connected somehow over social media. And we weren't posting any of the like, "Hey, we're in desperate needs. We're trusting God's going to take care of us." She reached out and said, "This is such an awkward request, but I am looking for." I was praying this morning and asking God what to do with a windfall of money that I got, and I felt like He said, "Ask you for an itemized list of your bills, and He'll catch them up." And so her itemized
No
list
way.
was perfect there, but she had to listen and obey. So I say that my challenge today, or that I think a challenge for believers, is self reliance, right? I looked at what
Hmm.
I had and I said, $50 isn't going to cut it when it's 800
Yeah.
bucks is what the bills actually are. And so I knew my self reliance, instead of relying on God to actually back me up, I tend to take it on myself. And I still
It's the
struggle with
fish
that
and
to this
loaves.
day. Just the scale has grown, right?
Yeah, it's still the fish and loaves, right? So
Yeah, and it looks more flashy now. This is where I'm struggling today because somebody would look at me and say, "Wow, he's doing all of these amazing things." But the reality is, to me, it's still fish and loaves because I've said yes and obeyed at a level that other people would be like, "You are completely crazy." And some days I look at myself and say, "You're completely crazy."
I am crazy. Yeah. Um, so you've built these spaces, these things where people go and connect and gather and everything. Um, where do you go when you need to just, connect or gather or when you get a chance? How do you get to recharge?
Yeah, my refueling.
Is it in your dungeon? Is it in your dungeon?
What's that?
Is it in your dungeon?
Yeah, no, it actually, I do like to be in my dungeon from a work standpoint, but what refuels me, I do time blocking. Once again, I am an operations person. So from 6 to 8, I do time blocking. And in that time period, it is three things for me: spiritual development, develop my mind, so read a book, something that's outside of my learning zone. And then the third one is physical development. I love a good hour and a half long gym session in the mornings. The weight is the same weight no matter who you are, and you can push all of your anxiety, all of your frustrations right out up into that weight. And it's people are always like, you work out to be stronger and help. No, I work out actually for that release that's in my brain.
Yeah.
So three things for me in the morning: I always try to do some spiritual development, and that could be meditation, that can be Bible reading, that can be devotional type stuff. I always I'm listening to three different books, so audiobooks are my thing to listen to. Um,
What are you listening to right now?
so right now I'm re-listening to a book by Joe Dispenza, and it's called Becoming Supernatural. And the concept
Okay.
there is trying to understand how I believe we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and that your thought life actually manifests some things in you, sickness wise, health wise. And so I'm trying to understand exactly how I'm fearfully and wonderfully made.
Okay. So now one section that I like to do with all the guests is the 615 rapid fire. So I'm just going to shoot out a couple of quick questions regarding to living in Middle Tennessee. You tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Um, so first of all, what you get a billboard on I-65 for one full year. What does it say?
Um, wow, that's good. I guess I would, if I had that, I would say seek first the kingdom. That's my motto on every level. Everything else is taken care of when you do it. So that's the most important. To me, it's the golden ticket of Christian expression. If we actually understood and believed it, it changed our lives. So that's what I would put.
Okay. Describe your idea of a perfect day in Middle Tennessee.
Oh, a perfect day in Middle Tennessee. Probably a lot of people would disagree with me on this, but 90 to 95 with a matching humidity. Perfect day to go for a
What?
run.
Oh, okay. For a run. Okay. I was going to say, Aaron, we're going to stop this podcast right now. Like 1995. No way. No way.
Most people say that. I actually love it warm. There when it's starting to change. It's we're coming into early fall this year, and the leaves are starting to change already. And I am not for it. I like it warm, real
Okay.
warm.
All right. I can't say I agree. I'm the opposite. I'm coming from Miami where it's always 95 to, whatever. So,
Yeah.
um, what's your favorite Middle Tennessee food spot and dish?
Oh, that's also bad for me because just a little FYI about me. I would, if it was possible to eat 3 pills a day and have all of my nutritional balance, that's what I would do. I do not like food.
Okay.
I eat chicken, broccoli, and rice, and I'd eat it 3 meals a day if that's what it is because my macros are in it. I have a
Okay.
coffee shop, but I don't drink coffee. I don't appreciate coffee. So I really am not the guy to ask about a food place. It would have to be somewhere that has good chicken, broccoli, and rice.
Okay.
And there's few of those.
Other Middle Tennessee people or businesses or stories that you think I should highlight on the show?
Um, Yeah, I think there's an amazing business. Austin Husky has an amazing business. It's Husky Lumber. They're in Nashville, they're in Franklin, they're in Murfreesboro. He's got 300 employees and is running that place in a really awesome manner. Aaron Stokes is a great business leader in the Franklin community, but more nationally now on that level. And then Yeah, those are the ones that jump right out at me. There are other businesses that are behind the scenes type businesses, but yeah.
Right. Sounds good. So before we sign off and you tell people where to connect with you, where they can find out more information, anything else that you want to share with the listeners? Anything that we maybe didn't touch on that you want to highlight? Anything?
No, I think that if anything you take away from a podcast like this, I would hope that you take the concept of, I think a lot of people say that they have faith for something to happen. And I just want you to know that faith actually looks a lot like risk. And we are taught to be risk averse. And so when you're getting ready to do the next thing, whatever it is that you're pushing into personally, I would challenge you to not shy away from something that looks like risk, because faith is not a safe expression. I think that we have made it into milk when it's actually meat. So don't be afraid to take that risk. That's what faith actually looks like.
Love it. I love that. I think that's a perfect way of closing out. Aaron, how can people find out more about you, connect with you, anything?
So I do a couple of things around this concept of avodah, and one is a private Facebook group. This is for business leaders, intrapreneurial and entrepreneurial. They're entrepreneurial, you're running your own business, you're part of your own business, and intrapreneurials, you're part of somebody else's business, but you play an integral role. And it's called the Avodah Roundtable, and it's a private Facebook group. I would encourage you to reach out, and there's some questions answered to get into the group, but it's a great opportunity to network with other like-minded business people. The other piece of it is theavodahlife.com is a place you can go to. It's going to be where I've written a book, and it's going to be the landing page for that. But right now you could sign up for a monthly or a weekly Monday morning newsletter that details more of these concepts of what it looks like to do business as a kingdom of heaven representative, not just as a good ethical business. So those are two places that you could reach out.
Yeah, and if I can say so myself, I'm part of the group, and it's always great conversations, great resources being shared there. And the newsletter, again, is one of those that I look forward to. It's not long, it's super concise, it's straight to the point. It's just one of those little like nuggets of things to get your week going in the right mindset. So could not recommend it more. I'll make sure and link out in the show notes to everything.
Perfect.
Aaron, thank you so much, brother.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Hey there, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with somebody you think would find it interesting. Until next time, thank you and God bless.